Hi, I'm Christine Gachot. I'm here today with my partner and husband, John Gachot, at our studio to do a masterclass on urban living.
And we're going to revisit some of our favorite residential and hospitality projects to see what worked.
And what didn't.
Enjoy. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some of the places that we've lived in the city. I think it's an interesting journey that we've gone on because we've lived in a few different neighborhoods. Our last home was on Bond Street, which is a classic Soho block. At the end of the day, we decided as much as we loved this place and however close it was to the studio, it was time for a change. So Christine, in her perusing, found a beautiful old townhouse, I think it's dating from the 1850s, that was then translated by Paul Rudolph into his own personal home.
It couldn't be a forever home, but to live in something that was so important and to experience it for 3 years, it was like, we're doing this. No matter who says what, I didn't care who objected in the family, we were all going uptown. We always tend to gravitate towards a warm but neutral base palette. And then the layering has, evolved from home to home. I think what's successful is that core group of colors and of key furniture pieces, and then you start to add in a little bit of the fun, right, along the way. And then that changes from home to home. But our core values have really been able to follow us through.
Some of the things that we have in the tray now, I think, are a byproduct of how we've lived, but also some basic design philosophies that we have. I think mixing textures is really important, never being too consistent, but you also have to know what you're using things for. So, a boucle versus a velvet versus Indian sisal that we use everywhere. It is so durable, and I think that this was this linchpin that helped the Paul Rudolph apartment go from being this hard area that needed a little bit of softening, and so this trick really helped us kind of throw it off a little bit. But then we layer back into it with finer materials, and I think things like the silk velvets are timeless, the different warm palette that Christine's talking about. I think that you don't have to be locked into the architectural style of the apartment. So I think what we've learned and what we encourage people is that you can find these beautiful shells, and currently the Upper East Side is a great place to find these voluminous, beautiful old world apartments with wonderful ceiling height. They're still out there, but they're a backdrop for contemporary living. And I think that that's how we've tried to layer into that to make it feel different.
When we're working with clients, the key thing is getting to know them and helping them make decisions that will last, that can be layered upon easily, because no one wants to move in and have it be camera ready. That's ridiculous. You come with your own things, you want to collect things, you want to grow, you want to, have your memories expand way beyond your designer's input. Giving people a good backdrop for them to curate their lives moving forward is just as important as what we do.
Whenever we install a home and the client comes out, oh, it's so great, I'm so happy it's done, and I said 10 more years.
Yeah.
And I think that 10 years is where you start layering your personality into it.
Yes.
We're trying to give you a backdrop or a core that allows you to build and develop and understand the sensitivities of homes.
The carriage house. So, you had said it's business as usual, but this was business not so usual. The client was very interested in experimenting with color, saturated color, no pressure. So we kind of layered backwards a little bit and started with these really bright, lush colors.
The client actually said, well, let's turn up the volume a little more with the color. Let's keep going, let's keep going, let's keep going. And so we really had to strategize about that. We took a neutral color to the actual wall in the main room, but then just blew out the furniture. The area that you're really living in and sitting in is where you're immersed in these deep aubergines and these, cerulean blues, and where we kind of riff off of colors we really needed to add in. So that was what was really
Well, one thing I think to
challenging.
remember is that when you're dealing with a double height space, it's good to have those colors connect, right? So you have to have that base wall color really be grounding. And that's why we went with this very neutral palette. Offshoots in contained rooms, that's where we brought in the great saturation in the walls.
Yep.
But in your main living area where the two levels, are exposed to one another, there was no place to stop and start paint.
Yeah.
Really think about that when you are looking at a palette for your own home or your own hotel, hopefully, that you're thinking about the transition of material and you're thinking about the transition of color. They have to speak together. Basically, your core, right? And we do this often. We've gotten better at color, but our core is typically a neutral. And then we are offshooting into more saturated color in contained areas where you can stop and start very easily. I do like the idea that when I'm dealing with color personally, I am not afraid to go kind of tone on tone on tone. And then it's not as jarring. It's almost more like a move.
Yeah.
It's certainly in our hospitality projects. Pebble Bar was designed in collaboration with our dear friends from Authentic Hospitality. Again, going back to kind of this idea of, residential meets hospitality and everything in between, Pebble Bar is a great example of that sentiment.
A lot of this space was meant to feel like a home, so we didn't want it to feel too commercial and store-bought. Just really interesting, homey space, and I think it's a go-to spot in this neighborhood for people.
Yeah, it's very interesting even when we're looking at palettes, right? And if you take a look at this and you start to look at some of the fabrics and materials and the layering of the color palette and thought, it's really soft, very textural, lots of warm colors, hues going on at all times.
There's a lot of tricks to this that we use, but the overall effect and the overall feel is meant to feel like you're in your home or your own private club, that you feel comfortable, and why should you sacrifice here? So
That's right.
definitely layered that up a little bit. Well, I think a lot of things are just making good choices too amongst those. So whether it's residential or hospitality, you just know, like for instance, this stone, which I just pulled out, which is the bar top, I would dare you to find the red wine ring on this. I would, as it gets more beat up and abused, it actually gets more beautiful. It has variation, and so making good choices like this for surfaces that are going to get a lot of abuse makes sense. And the same with the tiles on the floor, right?
Sure.
That we're still able to put pattern and detail into these, but we're using kind of resilient materials in a clever way that gives you a chance to have a feeling of detail, but not necessarily have to worry about it.
I think that the most interesting thing about going from high-end residential to hospitality is the development of fabrics over the years, right? That commercial grade fabric that you would not know that this was meant for a bar, right? Or a hotel. You would use it in your home.
Something that I love that you do is you always take this workhorse fabric that you know is going to be rich and durable and gets the job done, but then you layer in something a little more residential. You take the fabric that's the decorative pillow or the trim and you add that to it, and it immediately elevates the materials into something else, and it feels more like someone's home. You completely forget that you're dealing with a commercial environment.
I think it's ironic that you started in residential and I started in hospitality.
I think that's where it works so well. You get a little cross-pollination. And it's, I gotta say, even her hospitality moves into my residential work, and hopefully my residential work is informing your hospitality.
It is, always.
thank you for joining us today in our studio. It was a pleasure having you. I hope you enjoyed some of our projects, learned a little bit about our favorite hometown.
I am thrilled that everybody got a chance to see Gachot Studios. We are a really fun team, and I'm thrilled to share it with everybody.